What threat might require an entire chapter of the Adeptus Astartes to guard against it? I, for one, sleep no sounder at night, knowing that such warriors guard our Imperium. For my nightmares are haunted all the more by what enemies they watch for. The Storm Wardens are a successor chapter of unknown origin or founding. Hailing from the world of Sarkris within the Drusus Marches subsector, their designated Forbidden World of highland moors and grisly swamplands raises hardy tribes to join the Wardens' ranks. A pre-industrial civilization led by warlords who vie for dominion of the lands, the Sarkris tribes venerate traits such as honor as they give praise to the Emperor as the judge of their souls. Harboring abhuman colonies such as the Ogrins to the southern continent, likely resultant from the debt of honor made during the Nemesis incident of their chapter's legacy, the Storm Wardens do not nurture disdain for their mutated kindred, having fought beside Rattlings and other Astra Militarum Exilia over the centuries. The nature of the planet's declaration as a plague-infested forbidden world, a ruse to prevent prying eyes from investigating its domains. The final command of long-dead chapter master Owen Glendir demanded such a hollow quarantine for reasons known only to those within the chapter. Opening fire upon any vessel which ignores their automated beacons, demanding all to turn back from reaching Sarkris. Not even the highest authorities of the Administratum can ascertain the strength, dealings, and intent of this enigmatic chapter. Measuring their purity through martial deeds as they daub war paint upon their faces, within their fortress monastery, High Castle, the most promising tribesmen of the Moors conduct ritual combat in order to weed out the weakest of their number. An impregnable citadel housing nano-furnaces, dreadnought stasis chambers, gene seed banks, and other invaluable resources. Much of the pre-Imperium constructed High Castle is inaccessible without the use of aerial transports. Pitted against fen trolls and other native wildlife of their homeworld, only those proven in physical strength, cunning, and resourcefulness shall endure the running skirmishes, alike to an endurance run. Navigating through toxic swamps, replete with swarm leeches, quicksand, and other hazards, those who survive face one another in combat, earning great glory for their respective tribes in their duels to the death. Many receiving heirloom Sakris claymores from their tribesmen as reward for their valor in battle. To succeed under the ranks of the 10th Scout Company is a great honor. Their weapon returned to their tribe upon their eventual death, as a custom which maintains bonds between the chapter and their homeworld. Modified Astartes variants of such claymores, wielded only by proven veterans and officers of the chapter. These artifacts, passed down through generations of chapter history, though initially forged by the clans of Sarkris, have been outfitted by Stormwarden tech marines with power fields. The Stormwarden's deeds, confined to within the halo stars of the Calixis sector, rife with warp storms which harry the frontier worlds. Threats whether Xenos, heretic, or renegade in nature, demand a dedicated chapter to quell their actions. Isolationist in the extreme, as even the most powerful ruling classes are ignorant of their existence. Lord Sector Marius Hax maintains cooperative dealings with the chapter master, orchestrated by their ward master, Lorgarth MacLear. A veteran of nearly 800 years of service to his creed, MacLear as chapter master of the Storm Wardens has conducted Calixian conclaves with high-ranking inquisitors and rogue traders for centuries in order to preserve the northern reaches. Maintaining incredibly close ties with authorities of the Adeptus Mechanicus in order to maintain the chapter's vast armored vehicle pools, forges, and vast tech marine cadre, their separation from the wider Imperium requires incredible self-sufficiency, veering in comparison to even the legendary Iron Hands chapter of Astartes. Largely Codex compliant despite their customs inherited from the tribes of Sarkris, these warriors march into battle with stoic focus, exuding an aura of no-nonsense emotionally sterile warfare. Conducting campaigns within the outermost edges of Imperial space against foes with no hope of reinforcement, these grim angels are slow to forge bonds of friendship, yet fiercely loyal to those they protect. Meticulous in their battle preparations in order to prevent unnecessary losses, what the chapter lacks in pious meditations is more than compensated by their tactical brilliance and forward planning. Setting aside personal disputes with battle brothers and allies whilst engaging in combat, the Storm Wardens seek out enemy champions to face in duels of honor, their battle lines shifting as necessary to account for changes in enemy tactics. Preferring heavy armored assaults, often spearheaded by Land Raider and Predator tank maneuvers, those who survive ruinous bombardments from their strike cruisers are then struck by Thunderhawk strafing runs, pinning their opponents between their first wave of armored assault, Rhinos, and Sternguard veteran squads to their frontline brethren. Tactical squads flanking enemy positions, alongside Vindicators, Whirlwinds, and Terminator squads. The glory of melee combat, reserved for when the enemy is already close to destruction. Countless Stormwardens disembark from their vehicles to unleash their fury, only when all efforts to cripple their enemies have been exhausted. Their elite first company, known as the Tempest Blades, which carry modified Sacris claymores into battle. These typically two-handed power swords are the perfect tool to sunder enemy commanders in single combat. Should a squad of enemy champions engage the Tempest Blades in battle, it is forbidden for lesser battle brothers to intervene. The honor of the chapter so sacrosanct that any member of the Tempest Blades is willing to die to uphold the vaunted legacy of their forebears. Carrying armor and weapons of prior heroes of the chapter into battle, only those proven to have matched their ancestors' early deeds are permitted to stand as members of the chapter's inner circle. Those without Sacris claymores carry thunderhammers, power axes, halberds, and other two-handed weapons into battle. Their lack of shields requiring deft agility with such massive weapons, which other chapters would marvel to behold. Fighting to earn a place within the Librarian's Lexicon Heroica, which details the deeds of every legendary Stormwarden to have ever fought in the name of their chapter. This multi-volume tome is an inspiration to all who read its pages, driving the Tempest Blades to new heights of bravery. Its precious earliest volumes sealed away within the chapter's fortress monastery. Burdened with the shadow cast by their forebears' actions, it is the duty of every Tempest Blade to prove worthy of eking out their own legend within the perilous domains of the Calixis sector. Treating their dreadnoughts alike to holy relics, as those interred within have bested death itself in order to continue fighting, many Tempest Blades yearn to undertake the Apocryphon Oath of the Death Watch as a means to encounter peerless foes. Diving more battle brothers to the Chamber Militant of the Ordo Xenos than is typical for most chapters, the Stormwardens benefit from a pedigree earned across millennia of service by their kin, which rivals that of even the Crimson Fists, Ultramarines, or Dark Angel successor chapters. Every battle brother of the Stormwardens reveling in facing overwhelming odds, though the chapter has long ago sealed away all record of the Primarch to which their bloodline is tethered, they regardless fight with undiminished zeal without the need of their genesire's prominence. Their chaplains ever watchful for signs of grief or sorrow for the loss of so much of their heritage, each counsels their kindred during times of struggle and appoints them a foe of great infamy to focus on their spiritual turmoil. The stain on their honor commit during the Nemesis incident requiring such drastic censoring of their past. During 945.M36, an infestation of the Xenos species, known as the Enslavers, within the Sterapes cluster, demanded the chapter's intervention. Finding several planets to be consumed by the Immaterium, as the chapter beheld the largest enslaver migration ever encountered by the Segmentum, were Chapter Master Glenweir to deploy his men, doubtless many priceless warriors would be turned to serve such malevolent Xenos as was their namesake. Some accounts stating the chapter to have investigated Xenos ruins upon several worlds within the cluster, with aid from an unknown Inquisitor Lord. The First Company fought against hordes of enslaver thralls, resulting in tens of worlds being declared exterminatus to stem the tide. The First Company, said to return to Sacris with the taint of the enslaver still corrupting their minds. The Book of Aeneon details that such a malignant infection could not be healed, and thus to save the chapter, all hands of the Tempest Blades were captured. Sealing the Inquisitor Lord and the afflicted men of the First Company into stasis vaults deep below High Castle as a compromise. Should a cure for such corruption be found, these heroic veterans shall once more return to their chapter to face the enemies of the Imperium. The Inquisitor Lord demanding that the world of Sacris be cordoned off to prevent the spread of the enslaver corruption, should the stasis vaults ever be breached. To prevent intentional sabotage, the chapter would redact much of their history as a means to vanguard against such meddling. The First Company, renamed as the Inheritors henceforth, each battle brother fights in hopes of one day aiding their ancient brethren's return from stasis, and reappointment as the true champions of the Stormwardens. Senior Adepts of Mars begrudgingly outfitting priceless Archaeotech scanning devices within High Castle to constantly screen for signs of containment breaches, only by virtue of the chapter's countless deeds of service and ancient pacts to the Adepts of Mars were such technology surrendered. Relaying details of such an incident to Holy Terror with the authority of the Lord Inquisitor galvanizing their account. With sanction from the High Lords of Terror, Chapter Master Glenweir sealed away vast swathes of High Castle, and began the chapter's isolationist vigil. Redacting much of their history, their genetic lineage, and glory deeds, several venerable dreadnoughts under oaths of eternal silence guard a stasis vault containing a single tome, authored by Chief Librarian Bryn Maxon, the Liber Tempest, which contains 77 volumes of their history, including accounts of the Age of Apostasy. Said to have taken 20 years to write by the chapter's librarius, as their heavily wounded Chief Librarian held Death's Embrace at bay until its completion. His recitation of the Storm Warden's deeds took priority over eternal rest by the Emperor's side. Several simultaneous versions of such a text, written during Maxon's recitation, a schism almost brought low the chapter following the Chief Librarian's death, as divergent accounts invited disorder within their ranks, aided by benefactors beyond the pale. An entire century of scrutinizing by the librarians, whittling down such accounts to a single archive, the Book of Aenion, Liber Esoterica Cadfanius, and Apocrypha of Yorath, bearing the name of their writers, were redacted. Shunning all plaudits of honor, such as laurels of victory, statues in their image, or celebrations requisite to their countless victories made in the name of the Imperium, it is the greatest shame that such a worthy chapter has by necessity abandoned such pursuits for the good of the Imperium. Preserving their chapter banners, which proudly display the names of war zones which the chapter can no longer remember, whether the War of the Pillars of Creation, Second Magellanic Expedition, or Scouring of Moshan, the chapter shall never know the names of their fallen brethren, martyred during such campaigns predating the Nemesis incident. Committing the largest consignment of Astartes forces during the opening stages of the Achilles Crusade of 777.M41, 7 companies of the chapter comprised just shy of the Storm Warden's entire amassed chapter strength. Lorgarth MacLear leading Operation Hammerfall, which led to many incredible victories for the Imperium, having fought beside Lord Militant Tiber Achilles during the scouring of Low Borea against the Crave species, MacLear needed little encouragement to fight by his side again. Dispatching his own men as emissaries of his will, while near 100 chapter masters were approached with little details of the campaign, those who had served alongside Lorgarth acceded to his call to arms, having great respect for the capable Warden Master. Several dozen chapters aiding the Achilles Crusade, knowing their faith in MacLear not to be misplaced, the amassed chapter master saw fit to elect the Warden Master as the leader of all Space Marine forces appointed to the crusade. Creating a Holy Crusade banner guarded by an elite honor guard comprised of every champion of the assembled chapters. After decades of planning, the Adeptus Astartes rallied behind the spear tip of the Storm Wardens, led by their heroic Warden Master. Seeking to repel the Tau Empire from their capital, Sal Malor of the Velkhan Sept, the human populace, allied to the Xenos, forswore their oaths to the Emperor, and for their assertions of independence, paid in blood. Achieving countless victories despite such an unforeseen setback, the Storm Warden's meticulous planning saw to the Tau battle carders in their dozens, as war zones such as the Battle of Kagaran pushed their armies to their limit. Alongside the Black Templars and Dark Suns chapters, the Storm Wardens purged the Xenos from orbit, using their amassed battle barges, their combined 7 assault companies, utterly devastating what remained of enemy resistance. Resisting the Tau counterattack at Epiphany Rock, Lorgarth MacLear personally fought against a swarm of Tau heavy battlesuits, the Storm Wardens alongside a dozen Terminator squads, teleporting into the midst of their rearming bays, tearing them to shreds as they sought to resupply. Pushing the Tau back to the death world of Ravacine, Operation Hammerfall, after numerous victories, tasted their first grievous losses, combating the entirety of the Xenos army as they desperately attempted to blunt the Space Marine advance. Bolstered by alien mercenaries never before encountered within the Segmentum, the First Battle of Ravacine lasted for 3 solar weeks as the Storm Wardens and their allies failed to gain ground against their entrenched foes. MacLear's efforts reported to be superhuman in his ability to redeploy so swiftly that many enemy accounts claimed him to be in several locations at once. The Tau received no respite for their tenacity as the Storm Wardens rode their sacrosanct war steeds into battle. Sensing victory within his grasp, MacLear's projections suggested mere months of conflict to provide a victory. Yet regardless of the Warden Master's brilliance, his final daring assault would never reach fruition. Untold millions of ramshackle fleets of the forces of chaos, signaling the emergence of hidden cultist uprisings throughout the system, the Imperium could not hope to win a war on 2 fronts despite the Tau's ailing lines. Imperial reinforcement fleets ambushed by the thralls of the ruinous powers, forcing the Storm Wardens to withdraw from Ravacine. The chapter swore oaths to overcome such trials, as the Achilles Crusade protracted from being won in a single year to as long as 3 centuries of battle. Warmaster Achilles perishing during the Crusade as the Gellerfield of his flagship, the Proclamation of Wrath, saw to its destruction during 786.1041, the Storm Wardens regardless refused to abandon the Achilles Crusade under the commands of its new leader, Solomon Tetrarchus. Clad in blue ceramite, matched with grey greaves, gauntlets, pauldron insets, and chest aquillas, each battle brother marks their tactical role with blue stencils on their right pauldron, using blue High Gothic numerals within such designs to denote their squad, and black High Gothic numerals on their left knee plate to identify their company. The symbol of their chapter, a white lightning bolt atop a blue heraldic shield, signifies their noble duty to protect the Imperium whilst honouring the harsh storms of their homeworld. Ever hopeful of the return of their vaunted first company during the time of their chapter's greatest need, the Storm Wardens continue to uphold the traditions of their homeworld as the myriad foes of humanity continue to test their indomitable spirit.